On is the deed, trust, and series document for a particular company. We're going to be working with a client here called David Portugal, and the first thing we're going to look at is look in David's file and figure out what is the name of his company. You'll know it's the name of his company because you'll find a document that's called Original Document. It's from the Secretary of State. When you look at this document, you'll see that it's the SFHWEC LLC right here. So we know that's going to be the name of his company. And if we scroll down, we see all these provisions. And you can see here if it has a notated here that this is going to be a series LLC. And we can see this underneath the purpose document and additional provisions, supplemental provisions. So it's created as a series LLC, so we're going to be forming up those documents to be able to move his property from his personal name into the series LLC and trust structure. So we have the name of his company, which is the SFHWEC LLC. And the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to look for the series document, so we can look at that first. I've highlighted all the areas that can need to be addressed in yellow. So if we look at this, then we know that this is the name of the company we need to be up top. Series LLCs are indicated. Each one of them is treated almost like their own entity. So the first property will be deeded into Series A, and then if we had a second property, it would be into Series C, or Series B, and the third one would be in Series C, etc. But this is his first property. I think it was SFHWEC, right? Yep. So we modify that up there. We go down here and we say, okay, we're going to paste that into there. We have to change this. And he's the sole owner of the property, so we're just going to change this to David Portugal. And we'll know that because it's from the particular client or from their intake file, which we're still in the process of developing, but be able to grab that. So now we have this series fully formed up. So what we'll do is go ahead and save that to his file, and that'll be inside all of his deed file. Alright, so we're done with the series part. Now let's go ahead and go to the trust creation. Again, all of these are highlighted in yellow. So for the trust, we look for what is the this is the first thing we look for, is what is the name of this trust going to be. And we know the name of the trust because we're going to use the address of the property for the name of the trust. It's usually what's creating called a land trust. So what we're going to do is go ahead and pull up the first property, which you can see is 7211 Gulf Way. And we can look at, in this particular, if you look at, this is the deed record that I'm looking at right now. So this one will have a couple of different things. You can see who the property originally came from, their addresses, and then who it belongs to now, which is our client, David A. Portugal, his address. Then it also gives you the legal description here, and we're going to be using that for the deed itself. But here, that doesn't actually give us the address of the property. So what we need to do then is either contact the client and say, hey, I need the address of the property, or look on the intake form where they listed that. So that way we can go back to the county appraisal records. You just Google, for example, Harris County Appraisal District, and you put in the client's name into the property search tab for whatever county you're looking at, and it'll pull up all the properties they own in that county. I've already done that for Gulfway records. And so for here, we see a couple of different things. We also see a legal description here, which is an abbreviated legal description, which we could use for the deed if we want to, but what we're really worried about here is what is the location address. So that's going to be 7211 Golfway, so we confirmed that to know that's what the correct address is going to be. And we added that now to our trust document for the title of our trust. You'll see 3 pieces here to the first paragraph of the trust holding. This is the trust holding the property. You'll see this is the grantor, as it says grantor. That's the person who creates the trust, owns the trust. You'll see it's delivers unto the trustees that are indicated here, and that's going to be the name of the client. And then the beneficiary will also be the same as the grantor, but these are both the company. So in our case, that's this series, the series that we just created, and it's going to deliver it to David Portugal for the benefit of the series. And then we should also always have these bolded. That makes it easy for us to double check any of our work. And we scroll all the way down to the bottom. This is if we had 2 different trustees, so for instance like a husband and a wife. But here we just have David, so what we're going to do is make this David Portugal. He's going to be a member, he's the sole member of the Series LLC that we created, and here is the name of the trust that we created up here. So what we do is just copy this trust that we created. I can move it all the way down to here. So now we have our trust. We're going to go ahead and save that back into our folder here, titled as such. And now what we're going to do is go to drafting the deed. Again, highlighted all the pertinent areas here. This is going to be the name of the person. That's going to be the grantor. That's going to be the current property owner. It's David Portugal. I happen to know that he's a married person, but you would look on his intake form for that. Or if it's not there, be sure to ask the client. Some counties will require you to state that information. There we've copied in the name of the trust that we created earlier. Then we have our next 3 pieces. We have the legal description, the appraiser number, and what is commonly known as, this is going to be the general address of the property. This is the legal description. In Texas and many counties, you don't need the appraiser number. I happen to know for this one we don't need the appraiser number. Some counties will require you to. The best way to check that is to remember that deed document we had before, is to look at whatever the original deed document that the client had or what we pulled online, and look to see what provisions did they have in this document. It doesn't look like, if we scan this, we just have dates, grantor information, consideration, property, and reservations from conveyance, exceptions to conveyance. So there's not, if there's extra information marked in here about appraiser numbers or anything like that, that should be a red flag that says, hey, I need to do some additional research to figure out what exactly is required in this county for this property. So we have 2 options here. We can either copy this, all of this, for the property description from the deed, but since we pulled this from the appraisal district, I'm just going to use it because it's shorter, and why do extra work if you don't have to, right? So this has to be copied exactly the way it's written on here with the exact same spacing and everything, and we always use caps lock for this work to make sure that everything looks clean. So we double check that, looks good, and we're going to go ahead and put in the address of the property here, and we can pull that from right here. This is our location address. And no matter what the client tells you, always go ahead and pull the description from the appraisal district whenever you can, because sometimes they screw up and they don't actually know the way the property is held. Well, it's a husband and a wife and they think it's just in one of their names, but it's actually in both of their names or something like